Dzień dobry Państwu. Witamy na naszym panelu dyskusyjnym
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the discussion panel about the involvement of young people in the Polish Sociological Association. And I'm happy that so many people are interested about this topic. My name is Natalia Szwedowska, and with Magdalena Klimczyk will be moderating this discussion. We hope to take care not only of the time frame, but also that this discussion is fruitful, generating ideas, and is also a ground for further debate. We'll be trying to reflect upon the involvement of young people in the Polish Sociological Association, both their formal and symbolic involvement of young people, and I'm hoping that this discussion will bring real ideas on how to develop that involvement. We'll start with something unconventional, as our generation tends to do. Please be honest to answer this question. Who of you feels young? Great, so we have a lot of young people here. Who is truly convinced that they are young, in fact? Okay, fewer hands, but quite a lot still. Happy. A sentimental journey. Let's embark on it now. Remember your first conference, your first lecture, or maybe the first paper you wrote, the first classes you had, maybe first day at university. We all did that. So, if everybody was there, if everybody experienced that, why are we afraid of youth? So, let's try to reflect about why young people are not all that present in the Polish Sociological Association. Now I'd like to invite to our scene our experts from the young generation and on the young generation. So I'd like to invite Julia Witkowska, a PhD student at the University of Gdańsk. Her main research interests involve around sports sociology, political sociology, and the development of AI. In her research, she used quantitative and qualitative research tools, combining sociological tools to analyze social phenomena. Next to the scene is Katarzyna Krzemińska, a doctoral student from the Jagiellonian University. She's a graduate from the first and second course studies. She's a laureate of the best MA paper, and she's writing her doctoral thesis on normality in precarious conditions. Her interests include intergenerational sociology, urban sociology, and sociology of the future. Welcome. We also have Jędrzej Kozak, who in October this year is starting his second year in his master's studies in the sociology department faculty of the Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań. His research is interested in sociology of studying, sociology of being young, and he's also a student of sociology, of course. Grzegorz Banasik, a student of sociology at the Jagiellonian University. His interests include sociology of love, sociology of literature, and culture sociology. He's the head of the sociology circle at the the Jagiellonian University, and he's coordinating the sociology of love section at their sociological club.
We are not alone here. I would like to invite Professor Mirosława Grabowska, the head of the PSA, affiliated to the university, the Warsaw University. She is conducting studies connected with sociology of politics and religion, and here she will chair this session. and try to help us with this discussion and with the solutions we'll try to come up with. So help yourself to the microphones. We don't have a lot of them, but I hope it will be enough. So each of us started at some point. When should we start? Is there the age at which it's best to start? So that's the question to Professor Grabowska. What is the role of PSA? It is just for prestige, or is it a community open to everybody? Both of those things, if I may say so. Of course, it is a scientific academic community, and the main purpose is the exchange of thoughts. It's reflecting together on things and sharing research results, but it's also a community in a broader sense, the community of the sociological environment, let's say. And it's not only the scientific academic activity that we do, but we also support each other, I would say, in this life context. And outside, well, we take positions, make declarations in public affairs. Recently, we supported the International Sociological Association declaration on the situation in Gaza. Now, I want to ask this question: is this growing in PSA or to PSA? Well, I would rather have this growing in PSA. So PSA is open to admitting students. You can apply through your faculty. There are 14 faculties in Poland. And if you study in a different place where there is no branch of PSA, then you can apply directly to our management board. And usually people who apply, people who are interested, who apply for admission, they are admitted by our association, and then such a person chooses the branch they want to belong with, the closest geographically usually. Now, in the past, not in my times, but before that, there was a youth section in the Polish Sociological Association. Well, it does not exist anymore, unfortunately. It was when the educational reform 3+2 was introduced, so the sociological programs were divided into stages, the first cycle and second cycle programs. And I think that at that point the integration of the students was worse. Because the program was divided into those two cycles. But if there is a will to do that, such a section could be reopened once again. Of course, we will come back to this topic today, but please tell us, because maybe not everybody knows. At which point of your academic career can you join the association? Even the students can join. They apply and they are admitted. The students of MA programs, of bachelor's programs. Sorry. Of course, you know, theoretically it could be even first-year students. We have not had it yet. Because it's a bit early, but of course it's possible. So you mentioned the theoretical perspective, and I want to ask Katarzyna about her practical perspective. What is the engagement, the involvement of the young in the Polish Sociological Association? Are the young growing in PSA or to PSA? It's hard for me to speak on behalf of all the young people. I am in a specific situation. I think I want to start with that. This sense of youth the notion of youth is very dynamic. I mean, well, you even asked at the beginning who is young, who feels young. So the indicators of youth in your academic career are plentiful. So we can start from BA programs, MA programs, PhD programs. Another definition of a young scholar is that these are people after PhD studies who are employed already. So, you know, the category of youth, well, I don't want to say, I mean, it's not cast in iron. It's dynamic. It's not fixed. On the other hand, in the academia, in general, in our environment, it is not desired. I'm not saying that there are arguments, but I'm saying how the university functions. So what is valued is experience, titles you have, and so on. So it's not like in sports, the younger you are, the better, simply. But in practice, what is it like? I have never had a situation when somebody who really wants to join the association, that they cannot do it. It's rather a question of what it means, you know, to join the association, because you can be an active member, you can participate, build those structures, participate in the events, or do not use those things at all. Do not contribute anything. It can be due to age, partially, but also due to the fact whether you feel encouraged and welcome. For me, what helped me to feel like that is the award I got for my MA thesis, and so thanks to that, I could feel that I'm already in this professional community, in this academic community. So the fact that I work, I do research, I continue my education in the PhD school. So, you know, it all helped me. I started to think about myself as a sociologist and not a student. So, and I feel like I'm in a circle of friends in a way that we're working together for this environment. Thank you. And a question to Grzegorz now. What attracts students to the academia and what discourages them? Do the young people want to be in the PSA?
Well, I'm of course only speaking on my behalf, and what attracts me to the academia is this simple truth. The simple truth that was explained by Tacitus. If you want to think up new things, you have to have the resources. So I'm not from a rich family. That means that I need to have some social standing to be able to do that. And for me, the academia seems this easiest pathway for that. What can detract people from academia is the bureaucracy, and I'm certain that all of us here face the same problem, meaning there's this endless amount of applications, requests, forms, motions, if you want to have a trip, a business trip, you want to go to a conference, then you have to settle the funds. And at every stage of our academic education, we can be detracted by the bureaucracy, which is able to envelop and hide the true meaning of being a member of the academia. We can tend to sort of mechanically be members of these bureaucratic machines, just to mechanically visit conference, collect credits, and just survive. But that's not what it's all about. And what I find quite interesting about this topic, the membership of young people in the Polish Sociological Association and how young people can be attracted to join, is the fact that this demand doesn't come from nothing. It's not something physiological. You don't have to be a member to survive. It's all about culture. There needs to be a culture that breeds, that results in young people being members of the association and encourages young people to be members. So if there's patterns, if there's models of being, it's normal for students to be members of the association of PSA. If they want to have a future in the academia, that's the natural way. And until we make those models, form those patterns, that it's natural to become members of associations if we want to continue our academic career, well, and until it's not only on paper, that's when it's going to become a norm and not a matter of just being allowed to join or not being allowed to join. Well, you've already mentioned cultural patterns, cultural moderns, praxis, and so on. So let me just ask about young people's involvement in creating academic space. Well, the reality of young researchers include very dynamic development in several spheres. The confidence that is needed has to be outlined. It's not that we think from the very onset that we're able to do everything. We're able to conduct any type of research that's there, because it all depends on our capabilities. That comes with time. That comes with time where we take up bolder topics, bolder methods, and that's just the development curve that we take over the first cycle and the second cycle of studies in sociology. But I also think that our horizons are very important, depending, of course, understood as what we are interested in, what we want to study. And the 5 years in first cycle, second cycle is too little to explore everything, to find what's really of our interest. But in the context of today's discussion, I do think that horizons are very important in terms of our techniques, our skills, and nobody prevents anybody from joining associations like PSA. We're encouraged to do that. And when we joined this panel, when we were contacted about this panel in Poznań, we know that everybody can join the Polish Sociological Association. There's 50 members of our sociology club. Nobody's a member. We all know that we can join. We know that we have very good programs at our university where young people get grants for research. Nobody is a member of the Polish Sociological Association. What's interesting is one of the programs in the first cycle sociology course at our university, the deadline for submitting proposals is the end of November, and the sense of that is that we have a program at our university to intensify young people taking part in those kinds of research. But the downside of that is that, well, people find out about that program too late. We were in our third year of the first cycle when we found out about that. And the second idea of that is, well, you need to start a new course to use that opportunity. And from hindsight, I can say that many of us haven't used the full opportunities that were offered because we simply didn't know about them.
That's a great response. We're talking about many different issues that we will want to come back to again. So question to Julia, what makes students want to get involved? I think what would motivate us to get involved is the vision of growing in PSA, because where can we develop ourselves, our academic CV, yeah. And you talked about this clear paths of development of PSA, so that, you know, we know that we are welcome there and seen as partners for different research, for cooperation. And now, in the context of conference, I think what would motivate us to get involved is that if we could see that there is a section of young sociologists at each conference, that it's like a norm, that there's a place for the young, because sometimes, you know, it's very difficult for us to be admitted to conferences organized by PSA. So without the support of those who are more experienced, it's difficult for us. I mean, mentoring would be great, but I'm not even talking about mentoring, but just having this perspective that we have support, that we have experienced researchers who can help us develop. Especially in my university in Gdańsk, there are students and PhD students who want very much, but they don't know how to do that. They do not see those clear paths. And I'm talking about PSA here. Like they don't know where they should start to develop and what to do with this enthusiasm that they have. Now, what attracts young people is if there are topics that are interesting for us, that are trendy for us. So like about the social media, for instance, and politics even, because the last elections showed that the young are interested in politics and they want to research topics connected with the sociology of politics. So I think it all boils down to having those clear paths of development within the association, of having there a place where we can develop our creativity, and you know that we should know that our enthusiasm will not be wasted. I would like, do we have a question? Question, yes, Professor? No, not a question, but if I may, just say a few words. First of all, I'm really glad that at least in one case, the award given by PSA has worked. And I want to say that we give such awards to BA, for BA thesis, MA thesis, PhD thesis. And the sections also give their own awards. You could see that yesterday if you were present. So I really encourage you to be interested in that, because those awards are prestigious, and I think that they could encourage you to join the academia. I wouldn't say that the young are unwanted as researchers. That depends, of course. Last year I had a research seminar for the fourth-year students, and the title was "Why do young people want 8 asterisks?" And this was very popular. The students had to do one interview, free interview, and I told them already from the very beginning that they know things I don't know, that they have experience I don't have, and they did great interviews. And no professional could have done that, because this was, about peers talking to peers. These were people aged 20 to 29. They used the language. I had to check some words, even in a vocabulary, because I didn't understand. So that means that these were really honest conversations. So you should be aware, you should realize that your interests are specific, your experience is specific, and that you can see something we don't and we will not see. So the fields of research, certain fields of research, certain interests, they will be yours only. And the older generation of sociologists, it's not like we don't see the potential in you as researchers. It's not true. Of course, but since, we know that it can be done, then why isn't it done? Why there are so few of us young people in the PSA? But I want to reveal a secret. Please keep it to yourself. When we organized this panel, we were wondering, can we do that? And even until yesterday, we were sort of worried, anxious, concerned. Can we be here or not really? Okay, so that's a question to you. Why? What blocks us? What are those barriers? I understand this concern, really, I think, this worry. I try to talk about it openly. I think it has been with me during all professional occasions, and contacts like here. It always seems to me that I'm not good enough for that, and that it's really by accident that I graduated, and so on. So, and it's not only because of my psychic, but I think there are other factors that come into play. So, your origins are important, the education and so on. Family background matters. Well, I am not accustomed in my family to having that. My parents both have higher education. They work for the government, but it's different. So I don't have this academic background, let's say. But those are individual features. I think a lot of us share that, however, and that's important. But what also matters, I think, is that, I don't know, you kind of need a special invitation. I sort of expect that, like a validation for me that, yes, you can be here, you're welcome. But when we're talking about the association with theoretically, is supposed to treat people equally, treat people as peers. So that means that, nobody should get invitations, yes? But still it is like kind of a problem for me. Because, even when I hear that it's open to everybody, I still ask myself a question, but, everybody, but am I really welcome? So, when you are active in a scientific club, that you're sort of institutionalized, so it should be natural that you are invited and you are welcome. Yeah. Okay, I don't want to take the floor for so long, so I will just only say that, like Professor said, it mentioned the system 3+2, and I think this reform does not help us to feel a part of this environment. I don't really know the people I study with. That sounds funny, I know. But, you know, I am in this interdisciplinary program. They are people who study politics and other, you know, from other fields, and that, you know, that doesn't help me to feel a part of the sociological environment. So it's hard to feel a part of the environment when we are isolated by the system in a systemic way, in a way.
I'd like to respond because you're talking about this special invitation. We have this feeling that we need to be specifically invited because we feel uncertain that we're welcome to join something or come somewhere. And I think there should be some section for young sociology at any conference that's organized under the patronage of the Polish Sociological Association. But I hope we'd hope that it wouldn't be a ghetto, that it's only for young people, but it would be open. I have very good experience with the Gdańsk University, where last year we organized with our sports sociology section of the Polish Sociological Association. We organized a conference, and the first thing we did was to add a special section for young sociology. But we wanted it to be a space where young people could share their ideas, their results of research from their PhD, from their MAs, and older, more experienced scholars could just take a look at their work, maybe offer some advice. And that actually happened. That was the liveliest discussion at that conference. It was very fruitful. Young people got great feedback, and it was a win-win situation where older, more experienced scholars could find new partners in young people to conduct further research. So this special invitation, well, maybe we wouldn't feel so uncertain if we knew that there is space specifically for us at conferences, in articles, with papers. That would be a standard. That should be a standard if we had, if we were able to overcome these structural issues. Also, platforms for communications. Communication are also some sort of barriers where we think about some solutions. We can think about platforms for communications so that we were able to skip those generational divides and just speak. Well, let's imagine the Polish Sociological Association as a room with open doors, as we know. It's just enough to knock on those doors. Maybe some will open, maybe not. But to go to those doors and knock on them, we have to know about them. Our colleague Jędrzej mentioned earlier that his sociological club didn't actually know that they're able to join organizations like the Sociological Association. I want to also add something to the previous question. The previous question was why young people don't join the Polish Sociological Association. Maybe this is going to sound a bit harsh, but you told me I was able to say harsh things. I genuinely think that young people don't see any benefits of joining the association. When we look at our community in Poznań, I don't really think that Polish Sociological Association will have a significant contribution to our sociological journey, our development there. This association was somewhere on the bylines, and that's it. In terms of this special invitation, we don't know that the association would really want us, but they want us to do some specific, complete some specific task. And I think it's very important to show young people and perhaps show them the offer that PSA has to work in their lives, how they can contribute, how the association can get involved in the young people's sociological journey. Being members of the association, of course, is some form of added value because it boosts confidence. You can be proud of being member of such a great association with such tremendous history. But ultimately it boils down to the fact that young people don't really think about those categorical statuses and finding the value just in being members of something. We need to see the actual point of being members. We want to act on some specific, in a specific way, not in some specific manner. That's why, perhaps, that's the reason why the Polish Sociological Association is not of such a great interest to young people. Thank you for being so open. And since we've already broken that barrier, maybe somebody wants to add something in a also very open manner.
So this sort of perspective, what do we have from the forest? It's not close to me. I remember such lessons from biology in primary school. Yeah, if you're interested in joining this community, this association, then I would advise you to join a particular section. Because in thematic sections, and we have 33 of them in the Polish Sociological Association, I think most of us could find there's something for themselves, and that's really the academic life, scientific life going on there. And from time to time, there are the congresses like this one. But it is in the sections that we have local conferences, local seminars, lectures, and so on. And you can really develop your interests there. And you can also have new contacts and do the networking, which is so important in the academia. PSA does not have any funds. We cannot fund any research, but we have among us researchers who are very experienced with that, with getting grants, who have grants, and they can invite young people to participate in such research. Science is democratic. The age is not important, your degree is not important. What matters is what you do, how you do it. So I would encourage you to take this egalitarian position. Maybe you don't see it in your institutes, at your faculties, because you have all this hierarchy there. But as a matter of fact, please believe me, science is very democratic. To give you an example, on Friday, I will be in a thematic group. I have a speech there. And next to me, there will be a speech delivered by my student, who was my student in 2021, 2022. and we'll see which presentation will be more interesting. So it's not like that by definition the professor will say something more interesting than the student or a PhD student. So it's not like that, really. Degrees, hierarchy, that's for bureaucracy. And PSA is not to blame for that. Bureaucracy is getting bigger. You know that, you experience that, but we all experience that. Maybe one more question. So when you talk about including you, then from the perspective of the management board, I can say we can see that we're getting older and we would like to stop that process. So we would like to change one thing, that in the management board, we would like to have 2 places, 2 seats, for the young people. And that requires changing the charter of the organization, and it's only the General Assembly that can amend the charter. But if you, and that's this assembly gathers twice a year, but only this change itself will not make a lot of people join suddenly PSA, but at least what it could do is that would have a representative of the young involved in the work of the PSA. So if you believe that that could help young people to become familiar with PSA, then I would say the management board is open to doing that. But, we would have to choose such a representative.
Well, I think this is this special invitation that we were discussing earlier. I think this is a very good idea, but I'd also like to ask our moderator, is this the part of our discussion where we talk about solutions? Because I think naturally we've progressed to that part. If you want to address the solution proposed by Professor Grabowska, that's, well, we can do that. Because I also have a solution that I could offer. That's why I'm asking. I will not be forming an opinion if this special invitation is a good idea or not, especially if we address it to people who are in early stages of their career. But I want to think about the activity of the Polish Sociological Association to invite people just to come and see what PSA is doing. And I think that's one of the issues. One of the issues that generates emotion, uncertainty, and those quite frequent questions if they may or may not join or may not do something after joining the association. I understand that the activity of the association is quite clear, but on the other hand is also quite convoluted because it's not laid down in a very clear way, like some requirements in a job contract. So it all depends on the student or the PhD student who kind of naturally get an understanding of what they do when being members of an association. So this difficulty of finding yourself within the structures of an institution of association is that we tend to reproduce those structures, but while we know that they are laid down in certain statutes, documents, and so on, but it's also naturally done differently. But what would you like to want? I believe that, well, there's ample opportunities of what we could do, but this strictly scientific activity is conducted in specialty sections of our Polish Sociological Associations. And quite clearly, there's sections that are very active, and some sections are not that active, and they don't report, for instance, to our board in time. There's sections that want to publish, they want to organize conferences, they want to get funding, they want to give out awards for special achievements. So activities and specific tasks are done within sections.
If I may add to what Kasia said, it seems that introducing such a change right now, I don't know when the next General Assembly is, and let's say in June, okay? So let's say this is implemented next year, we will have this new state of affairs. Now, if that's the only thing that happens, then I think that this would be not a real change, and only the people who are not affected by the problems we talked about would have access to the PSA, because that would really, you know, be the people who are already in the PSA that would benefit from that, people who have already overcome those barriers that we're talking about. It is in a plus change, that's true, but I think that that's like stage 2. It should be stage 2. I think that first we should have more people in the PSA, young people, offer them something, show them why it makes sense to be here, and then make them enable them to join the structures. Yeah, I agree with what was said. If we were to introduce this solution, have young people in the management board, like 3 seats on the management board, that would it all boil down to this pragmatic influence, impact on everything what's happening, like on the agenda of conferences, on the topics that are chosen, and so on. So for young people, that's important, I think. Then in such case, you know, that would be a good idea. But I also agree with what was just said, that it's under certain conditions. Okay, so let's come back to Professor's question. That is important, I think. So what do young people really do? Why would they need PSA for? What are the activities that young sociologists engage in? With what challenges? What challenges are they facing? What kind of help do they need? Maybe I will take the floor, okay? So, what do students do? Unfortunately, they produce unnecessary papers, go to unnecessary conferences. It's like we don't have evaluations as slots, but we have other points, other assessments, and we have to generate them. In practice, we have this situation that although this individual academic development, scientific development seems to be the best didactic tool, it is manifested by going to useless conferences, conferences which just take everybody in, waste people's time just to get 3, 4, 2 points. Now it's like this kind of thinking, okay, I need one more national conference because my grade point average this semester is bad. And it refers to what Julia said. PSA could have this role in the context of students, young researchers, that would be like pro-quality. PSA could, I think, should and could animate the quality student movement, which would not be just going to conferences which do not matter, but I think the support from PSA should consist of organizing like panels for the young at PSA conferences, or help to organize just the conferences of the young and provide this quality mark. I think there's a lot of this, I would call it empty development. And I think PSA could help with that.
Well, let's then try to explore the realities of our everyday work. The panelists here are not taken on random, just from the first row of our audience here. Let's hear from people who are involved in everyday academic activities. And I can definitely say that you're not waiting for a special invitation to join some endeavors, but you're also creating space for development by organizing young people's conferences, from the young to the young. Do you see that as an opportunity? Do you fulfill yourself in those activities? Well, quite definitely. And I think that young people's section under the patronage of the PSA, the Polish Sociological Association, is something that would be welcome, but I don't want to be segregated as being the a separate entity. We wanted we would like to be open to older, more experienced researchers who would offer valuable advice, who would offer interesting insights, to be mentors, perhaps. We don't need a separate section just to be separated. We don't want its doors to be open to close to anyone. We don't want the Polish Sociological Association's doors to be closed to us, to anyone else. And we don't see a point of making a section for young people only and exclusively for young people. We want it to be an incubator of ideas, inspirations, to support each other, to have this space for further development. And to develop, we do need older and more experienced researchers to lead us to overcoming barriers, to attend valuable conferences or do good papers. And I also see that our involvement for the sake of other people to do sociology is very uplifting, at least for me. And I'm sure that it's not only energizing to me, but also to anybody else. And it adds a lot of confidence. But in terms of the section for young people, we need to work actively in our local communities. There's sections of the Polish Sociological Association in 14 different universities across Poland, like Professor Grabowska said. There's large conferences, of course, and we talked in our circles about the conferences that we in young sociology. These conferences all touch different subjects and that's great because we can develop different things, satisfy different needs that we have. And PSA, as a large organization which has a wide network of contacts, well, that's its main strength. Bringing together people from different fields of research to work together, to get acquainted with people who are not only in sociological interest clubs. In the next semester, I'm pretty sure that Polish faculties of sociology will have lots of students who won't know that, well, sociology is not for them, or maybe they want to do something specific in sociology, but it's not available at their faculty. So perhaps it's quite important to use those networks not only to work in specific clubs, interest clubs in sociology faculties, but also for whole years of courses, whole years of classes to show what can be done in sociology within your section, within the association, and that's also contributes to the idea of this special invitation. We can say that this is what we're doing. This is a fun activity. This is the opportunities you get. And that's what we are doing in our sociology circles in Poznań. There's lots of people who actually didn't know about its existence because it was kind of enclosed in itself. Over the last 2 years, we've been expanding. We've been inviting people, easing the pathway to become members of our club, and I think that's a very practical way to organize the youth people's PSA section.
I would like to address what you just said, but let me put it look at it from a different side. It seems to me that the people who study, they have contact with people who are active in PSA, because these are usually their teachers, yeah? And it seems to me that this expectation that PSA will do something for the young, it is forgetting that PSA is created by people who do this work for free and after office hours, so to say. So I think inviting young people to PSA is a good idea. And the young people would like to benefit from being in PSA, but at the same time, we should do something to have this space for us. Of course, you know, we can ask for support, and I think if we ask, we will get it. But what I mean is, so, I mean, if we're supposed to co-create the sociological environment, we have to also participate in its work and its creation. And I understand that especially the people who are just starting, if for them it may not be so obvious, but it should be clearly shown that without us, without our activity, this young section will simply not exist, because nobody will do it for us. Nobody will create it for us. And we will stop being young at one point. We should remember about that, regardless of the definition. And then we will have to pass it on to somebody else. I don't know if this is optimistic, but I think it's important. Yeah, I also think, like, if we look at the history of the previous section of students and PhD students, of graduate and postgraduate students. So I think what happened is, like, this, the young stopped being young, yeah, and that's why, you know, it finished, yes, because we did not manage to reproduce this section in time. So, if we start thinking, like, whether it makes sense to create such section, I think yes, but PSA would have to become an important element of sociological education, so that we have enough young students interested in being in PSA, so that in those cycles, 4 to 5 year cycles, when the students stop being students, we have the new ones, yeah, coming in, right? So we would have to take a plunge and see if it works, but at the same time try to attract more people, more young people into PSA, because if we don't have enough of young people, it will not be possible to, so to say, reproduce those sections in time. Okay, so now your wishes, let's say. Would you like to be in this youth section? What would you like to do there? Who would be the young there?
Okay, so we'll have questions from the audience at the end of our conference, if that's possible, of our panel.
To może niech to pytanie wybrzmi wśród naszych panelistów i otworzymy to pytanie na salę.
I wouldn't like to make just good wishes, but I guess if we make the wishes, then we'd have to do the making the wish, basically. Let's just make some postulates. Well, I think there's no border for being young. There's cognitive age, and we all can feel as young people. All of us here, definitely. But for formal reasons, I think that it could work as it did before, when the youth section was open. So it's for students and for PhD students. And perhaps it could work as once you become a member, you are still a member when you want to. If you develop in your academic career, then you can go to a different section, for instance, and maintain contacts with researchers, perhaps slightly younger researchers in that sense. Well, about wishes, about the section for young people in PSA, I really liked this idea of PSA becoming an important and clear way of our this theoretical academic career, and it's quite a surprising notion for me, and I'm quite happy we heard it actually here. But I think that while it's a young people section for the Polish Sociological Association, well, perhaps that would survive for 2 generations, let's say. But if we make it an obvious and a prerequisite of doing sociology in Poland as a way that reaches people who want more out of just studying sociology, perhaps that's when we can make sure that young people actually come and that space survives. Even if the section evolves, because that can happen naturally. But we would wish that this component of being an external factor that's an element of structural sociology in Poland, a structural element of sociology in Poland. Absolutely that. Perhaps this section should be organized initially by young people, students, PhD students, scientific circles, and that would show what we expect from knowledge, what our scientific interests are, what methodology we're interested in, what's our approach to science. But this section could be very inclusive and have this natural generational exchange, but of course it should be open to cooperation with anyone, to form networks and exchange experience, gather experience from anyone else. And we could show how we perceive science, new topics like social media, artificial intelligence. That's a subject of interest among many young researchers, how it impacts social processes, and well, that just needs to be done. I'm looking at our panelists just to make sure that maybe there's some question or comment from the audience that we want to hear. And if not, well, let's give the mics to the audience. And I see so many raised hands that it looks like a forest here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take one microphone to the audience and collect their voices. Well, this is something unexpected. I'll start from the top. Usually the expectation is that if you sit closer to the scene, you're first, but this time we'll do it the other way around. We're absolutely thrilled that this discussion is causing so much emotions.
I am a PhD student at Warsaw University, and I wanted to say a few things. First of all, I think PSA should take a better, show their attitude to contemporary sociological problems, take a stand on important issues, crises such as the one in Gaza and the transphobic lecture of Michael Bixson, where PSA did not take any position on. As for Gaza, yes, there was a declaration, but it was lacking, and I think this is what is lacking to many young people, many young members of PSA. So there is no dialogue between current issues and what PSA is doing. But on the other hand, small local conferences like the one in Warsaw for young sociologists, they are very good because the young were able to talk about the research, and the conference was addressed to the young, not only, but to the young as well, and it opens the door. It opens the door because during studies it was difficult to take part, to get involved in such big conference, because at that point we students, we do not have such knowledge, we do not know that we can do that. So it's good when we are provided with this environment where we can present our research. I am not sure if it's a good idea to have a separate youth section. I think, but I'm not really certain what it should be like. Maybe it's better if the young are just, they join the older researchers simply. I'm not sure about that. But as I mentioned, I think we are sociologists, so PSA should take a stand on contemporary issues. That's one thing. And another thing, as I said, is having the safe environment for young people to discuss things.
Can I continue? Michał Gulczyński, European Sociological Institute, European Sociological University. I have an opportunity, I have some advice to the association. It's not that easy to join. Me and my colleagues wanted to join with panels, offer panels for congresses, and it's not that easy because it turns out that we were too late because the board meets only a couple of times a year. So it's not that you join automatically. Another time I wanted to join, I wasn't able to pay in time. I had to pay before a specific deadline. Well, that's what prevented me to join. Another recommendation is to the association as a group good, something that offers something good to members as opposite of not offering to non-members. Here we can be on this conference without being members, and perhaps the association could advertise on what it offers to those who are specifically members. Maybe there's some special webinars, maybe special trainings or mentoring programs. Many grants which are practiced in some other organizations, maybe some newsletters that collects and spreads information from other sources.
From the Polish Academy of Science and from Visibility organization which gathers a lot of students and PhD students, also the members of PSA. And I know what kind of challenges we face when we recruit young, talented students and PhD students. And one thing I want to say in this context is that's hard to be avoided. Yes. So we, as the people who recruit students, young researchers, we know that this is unavoidable to, that there are fewer young people in such organizations. And it is because such programs like mentoring, PSA, and so on, there are more and more of them, and they are addressed to young people, like a Fulbright's program, and they are automatically more inclusive because they are called as the programs for the young. They offer very concrete things. So we, in my organization, we see less interest in our programs because of that. And this issue often comes up. And I believe that it does not mean that the young people will not be there, but we should sell PSA as an organization which has something to offer to the young. And I don't think this young section, youth section, should be the priority. And I know it's from experience of being in the sections, other sections in PSA. But I think that just being in PSA, it is prestigious, and it's important for young scholars, young researchers. And even if we, on a mental level, deny that. And another thing that also came up at the previous Congress in Wrocław, maybe mentoring programs, that could be something that PSA could introduce. I know it's time-consuming and needs money and so on. It's not easy to do, but I think it could be attractive for the young. And coming to a concrete, specific thing that I want to say, from my experience as organizer, as recruiter, this is something I could recommend. So on one hand, we should act outside, do things that would show the students especially, who are not as, don't have the self-confidence to just apply themselves. So this is one thing that should be done at university. And we often see that when we organize workshops at different universities, that young people come to us and they say that these are the lecturers, the scholars who do not tell them that such things exist. So I think this is something for PSA to do, that they should tell the heads of particular sections that they should inform the young, invite the young, and so on. So that's, one way of getting to those people who are not self-confident enough to do that by themselves. And another thing that was already mentioned here are the actions such as the Congress of Young Sociology. And they could show that PSA is open to the young, could show that we do conferences, we do workshops as well. We can teach you how to apply for a grant and so on. Yes, I think that would really attract the young. Maybe this is a conference that could be organized every 2 years. Some workshops that would be attractive. Now, the actions inside PSA. So here, I want to address Professor Grabowska's idea, that having young people sitting on the board. I think it's a great idea, although difficult, because I don't know if they would want to do that. Now, the definition of being young could be open and symbolic, but it's a good idea. But we also have the boards on particular sections, and there are such sections where the young people are invited to, but not every section does that. So maybe it's good to talk about that with the boards of particular sections so that they invite the young. Now, in the gender section, gender sociology section that I am in, we often talk during our conferences about the fact that the priority is to build subjectivity and not hierarchy. Now, you know, we can, it's about the way we address each other in a more informal way. Of course, I am not denying that formal conferences are needed, but I also think that more informal settings are needed, informal meetings. And we should also think how many young people we have in different sections. I think in this particular section, we have quite a lot of people. Maybe it's because of this more informal nature. Now, we see the young people during the Congress mainly as volunteers. I don't know what it was like in Białystok, but usually it's like that there are volunteers who do it to get points for internship, for etc. So it is a bit, I'm sorry to say that, but it's like using the young people instead of giving something to them. So, okay.
We have a response from our panelists. I would like to respond to your comment. Treating as the membership of the Polish Sociological Association as a group good, something as prestigious. I find that a very dangerous direction to go, and we shouldn't go that way, because ultimately it's a lot more valuable to form a community that we want to join because we believe what it's pursuing, not instead of joining just for specific benefits. Hello, Anna Szwed, the Kraków section of the association. And apart from sections, we also have specific departments in the Polish Sociological Association, young section for the young or young people in specific sections. I think both these elements are critical, and I think we have to encourage people in a collegial way, in a friendly way, but it's also about us. The association is not something that's done by somebody from the outside, somebody doing something, somebody preparing something from the outside. If we want to change something, well, it's us who has to do it. There's people who are older members, younger members, and the question that resounds here, what's the point? What's the point of the association? It's a question that we all need to ask and all need to answer to ourselves, but from the perspective of us being the Polish Sociological Association, as us creating the openness, and from the perspective of the Kraków unit of the Polish Sociological Association, well, we're inviting everybody to be active, to act and be actors. We have 2 new members, and we're greatly encouraging people to join the management board of specific units, field units, even at the early stages in their careers. And aside from being friends and having generational differences, sometimes I see that there's many differences between my colleagues from the same generation than from young people. I formed various research alliances with people from different generations. And if we follow that pathway, then we perhaps push the Polish Sociological Association into the mainstream. Thank you.
I have so many notes, so I will try to speak shortly. Some issues have come up which are important to me. The discussion, the open discussion that we should have, I think, all of us. So, like, can we combine prestige with openness and inclusion? I want to say it is obvious that according to the charter, the management board that I've been working with is convened in advance. There must be agenda and so on. But as you noticed, Kasia, we do it for free as volunteers and so on. It's like every 2 months. These are regular meetings in our free time. So that I want you to see, like Kasia said, the people who are working in those structures, these are the same people who have, you know, the professional roles, family roles, and so on. You know? And you know very well during what times of the day we correspond with you. So it hurts me a bit to hear that you need special invitations, because that's what I do all the time. I send those signals to you very often. That it's important, yeah. But as an older person, although I still feel young, I raised a hand at the beginning. So I also want to hear that we do things well, that you appreciate what I'm doing. So I don't want you to, you know, this is what hurt me. Like you say, we, the young, we want to feel that something makes sense. You know, I'm older, and I also like to feel like that I want to feel that something what I'm doing makes sense. And I want to feel as an agent, yeah? So I don't want us to build these stereotypes about generations, that Gen Z is like this, and these are boomers, and they are like this, and here they have too much free time, that's why they join PSA, and so on. Now, this question about the sections, yeah, I agree with that. I do not feel, okay, maybe it doesn't affect me because nobody will invite me to this young section, but let's say like this, a lot of people, there will be a lot of people who will not fit into this young category, but they have a lot of other difficulties, like they have disabilities and so on. So maybe, I like the word incubator. So maybe that would be a good thing, to create a place which is safe in this way, a safe environment where people would have opportunities.
I also raised my hand earlier, and first of all, I'd like to congratulate the organizers of the Congress and this panel. Well, it's a great discussion. You're doing a tremendous job. To cut short, looking from my function in the board of the association and working actively in the community, young people go there where there's favorable climate created by the environment. And from my perspective, it's good in Kraków, but it's not good in some other places, in other units of our Polish Sociological Association. I won't list them, of course. We're lacking certain discussions. Some people might say that science is democratic, but nobody respects that opinion. And some people are truly unable to change their mind, and that's why I could congratulate the Kraków unit of the Polish Sociological Association, who are stirring up waters, which of course result in good things to be done. And congratulations on this great panel.
Thank you very much for this meeting, because I think the important thing is for us to understand each other. That's the base, for any effective actions. I would like to, there are things I would like to understand from your side, because there was this question at first, like the subjective question about feeling young, and then there was this question I did not hear the answer to. Why are we afraid of the youth? Now, is this question addressed at the older generation? Because, this fear and anxiety, this was mentioned twice here, and that's worrying for me, because you mentioned that the young are afraid of being present in formalized structures. Can you explain that? What's the basis of this fear? Because again, this is absolutely subjective feeling, but I think on our part, people who are engaged in PSA activities, like, we are doing everything to make this association inclusive and prestigious at the same time. So that's my question. Why? Why did you ask us if we're afraid of the young? I think we're not. What is this barrier? Where does this fear come from? Why are you paralyzed? I don't understand that.
I'm looking towards my panelists. Maybe they want to respond. Well, let me also expand on that question and explain it about the fears and barriers. Well, being anxious about being young, since we've all been young, we've already talked about this earlier, is something that, well, we do want to get involved, and I think all panelists are great examples of that in any conference that we have, any action that we take. But sometimes we're afraid to give the voice to our students. Of course, I'm generalizing here, but students, we want to be heard. But when we approach students, students feel that they are taken care of and treated like there's sensitive eggs. But when we're asked to join some panel discussion, some table where we want to have the opportunity to speak, but perhaps about barriers, we can hear more from our panelists. When I thought about barriers, I thought about going beyond our specific roles, and it's somewhere that has to take place. My first contact with sociology, and our first contact with sociology, is during our university studies. We see structures, formalized structures, relations that are also structured, hierarchical, and also in associations we tend to have different positions. So entering certain structures is often associated with anxiety, because we need to overcome something that was known to us or unknown to us before, and we don't know too much about it. And that's just one of the examples that I'd like to give. And I have one example to give, which tends to be very, very down to earth and silly, perhaps, but many people also experience that in some stages of its careers. How do you go with somebody on a first-name basis? So there's a meeting of the Polish Sociological Association. I say hi to those person. I'm on a first-name basis. But then it turns out that this person, he or she, is my academic teacher, and I have classes with them. And then I need to refer to them a different way. So that's something that's quite silly, but might seem silly, but it's also illustrative of this moment of breakthrough, of gaining confidence and gaining this realizations that we're members of certain circles. It's not only professional, of course, but it also happens in many other moments of passage in our lives. And I constantly feel as I'm in this moment of passing from one point to another, and yeah. That's why I'm referring to that.
I want to answer those three questions that were asked, and I want to combine it into one. The professor said that you would like to hear that my generation is doing something well. My management board is doing something well. Okay, here you are. So we are at the 19th National Sociological Congress. So we are not in the hall, talking in the corridors behind your back. We are part of the discussion. So it shows that it is good, and it's done well. Yes, that you're doing it well. It's not just a little something. So that's this element of feedback with appreciation and recognition. Everything that we see here now, this is you doing something well. Yeah. So just the fact that even if we have fears and etc., the very fact that we can express them, it shows that PSA is willing to listen, and that's big. And another thing about creating this young section, yes, that would be bad because it's like this ghetto. I'm sorry for the example I'm going to give, but now if you were wondering which restaurant go to with your child, then if there is a kids menu in the restaurant, means they accept children. So if there is a young section in PSA, that means that PSA wants young people. And there's no doubt. We want to have students. Look at the inclusive fees, yes? That's the encouragement we're giving. Yeah, of course. I'm not saying that one excludes the other. But just consider that if we have a list of sections, when you're filling in the application, and you have a list of sections that you can apply to, and like when I see there, okay, there is a section for students and PhD students. So then I understand, okay, I can do that. So if you have any fears, any doubts, it helps you to overcome that. That's why I believe that this institutional form should be there. Unless, of course, this promotional campaign addressed to the young, will be so big that it would be unnecessary. Yeah, like you have this big banner, big advertisement on your website. And a short comment to this question about the fear. Now, to diagnose that, I think I can say that the young people, they feel this fear, uncertainty of being evaluated through the prism of, how many conferences they have taken part in, how many papers they published, and so on, their age. Yeah, but that leads us to the beginning of our discussion. So we are in favor of growing in PSA and not to PSA. Like that we should get rid of this fear. Yeah. I also want to add to that, because the professor mentioned that inside PSA there are people who work there for free, yes, and in their free time, and they still have to pay membership fees. And I want to emphasize that in many cities there are PSA branches that are very active, and students in many cities, they protest about the costs of life of students, and the fact that we have to fulfill many roles during studies. Yes, a lot of my peers, they have to work in order to support themselves during studies, and they cannot do any such additional activities, academic activities. And I didn't want to reproach anything to you. Because we want to have the same rules that apply to us, yeah. But I just explaining why, if there is a membership fee, it is a barrier, even if it's small. And it is this moment when you think, I don't know if it makes sense for me to pay this if I don't know what I will be doing.
I would like only brief comments and questions. I have notes, but do not fear. I do see that there's problems with encouraging students to join. All through my years of studying sociology, I've been doing sociology studies for more than 5 years at university. I'm from a sociology university. Of course, another issue that I noticed are the business meetings. Nobody said that they're open or not. I found out that they're open, but the phrase business meeting is excluding in itself. It's not encouraging people to attend that. And with my colleagues from the PhD students, we were discussing if are we welcome there or not? We weren't invited, definitely. Another issue that I find in Poland is the language, the nature of the Polish language. We're not naturally speaking to people, talking to people on a first-name basis. I was a member of, had the pleasure of studying in Morocco, and as a member, I became a member of the International Sociological Association there, and I felt free there, absolutely. And I still feel that I'm not good enough to join the Polish Sociological Association. Also, what I find lacking is that the Polish Sociological Association is not present in social media. Well, it's on Facebook, but Facebook is no longer the social media of young people. Young people use Instagram, TikTok, and all major organizations are present on Instagram. Facebook is a dead media because when I'm there, I'm not sure if it's working or not. I also wanted to talk about the young people's sections in conferences. Well, I think that young people should be encouraged to join thematic sections, because specific sections for young people also imply that, well, I'm a young researcher, and that's why my research could be less valuable than other presentations. I've experienced different conferences where there's this big contrast between what older more experienced professors make and the younger people make. That's it for me, and I'm happy to give the microphone to the next commenter.
Joanna Sawiek from Łódź University. I want to say that we have two areas when we want to join in certain groups, institutional and relational. And I think institutional is more important because to build relations, we don't need institutions. And I mean here the relations with my institute. If we have good relations with a supervisor, we don't need any mentoring program, and that's it. And I want to praise very much at this point the people from Łódź University. If you want to know how to do it, then you do it the way we do it. So these are great people who treat students in a serious way, respect students. And there was this funny moment when one of the teachers asked us very seriously, I don't know how many of you belong to PSA. And we looked around and we didn't even know that we could belong to PSA. Yeah? So the way they treat us in a serious way, we know that we can do it. I don't belong to PSA, and I think the main barrier is that we don't have our older colleagues there who joined before us. I think if you think about the elements of the student cultures, they do not have to be serious. If you think about students' cabaret and so on, a lot of our teachers show that you do not have to be a serious person to be a serious academic scholar. And I think the young are allowed to do things for fun. And that's what I'm saying, that we should not be afraid of that. So team building, integration, it's a good thing. At the same time, it could have this academic aspect. So I invite all the young people here in this room. In my organization, SKM Metoda, we plan to open this year a periodical for students, which would be both academic and satirical. It will not be professional. It will be a PDF file. Do not really get stressed about this institution being serious. No, it would be a space for you to write what you think about different issues, social, political, university maybe. Space for us to also apply this, use this research that we do so that it's useful. If you want to apply, please look at our Instagram or just come to me during lunch.
My name is Zuzak Kapczyk, and I am here in two roles. I'm a doctoral student at SWPS, but I'm also the member of the Polish Sociological Association with the board in Warsaw unit. And as a member of the board, I want to share that I see, I hear, and I listen. And the 10-people board is always constantly thinking about what we can do about involving people, what we can do about young people, maybe some peer mentoring, maybe some training, workshops on paper writing. What else is interesting to young people? What else we can do to young people? I'm here together with the Kraków unit. We're extending our hands to you, asking what's important. I also want to refer to other topics that were mentioned earlier by Anne, for instance. We have different, maybe more local matters that, as the Polish Sociological Association, we can make statements on. There's associations that are working for cheaper dorms, or perhaps cafeterias for sociology students, which could help students cope with raising living costs. I also have an appeal to my other fellows, doctoral students. We sometimes find it difficult to extend our help to other people. Maybe we could relieve some of our supervisors, professors, teachers, and help out younger students. I'm always open because if young students first cycle, second cycle need help, I'm open to helping them all the time. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Ever since the debate started, I wanted to share my thoughts. I'm also a student from the University of Warsaw. I'm very happy that this subject is discussed on this Congress. For me personally, the first issue that's quite invisible is that people don't know. In order to find out that there exists the Polish Sociological Association, there's other organizations, there's the Young People's Forum, Young Researchers Forum, a great conference organized by the PSA. Many people don't know that it's there. Maybe meetings in faculties. Are you interested in research? Maybe you're interested in more than just being a student. Maybe those meetings could be helpful to young people who don't really know where to go to have some access. Involvement of young people. Many people find involvement equal to being volunteers. Being members of student organizations, well, it's naturally volunteer work. These organizations are active. We spend hours of our free time with having lots of other things to do, and in no way we are involved with related to universities with grants or stuff. We need to find other forms of employment just to make ends meet, being waiters, for example. This is the difficult position of students in Poland, and that's my appeal to people employed by universities. Students do really appreciate the fact when they are approached and hear that your paper is good. Maybe you want to do something else. I'm having this or that class, and maybe you want to join because I see you're interested in this subject. In terms of anxiety, often we feel anxiety with not being good enough. How can we say that our research, our scientific work allows us to become members, to join the scientific community? And if we hear that compliment, well, we appreciate it for years to come. Whenever we are asked to be involved in some project and we're offered help with some publication, we appreciate it really for years, and then we share that thought for years. Maybe it doesn't come back to the teaching stuff, but many of our peers do find out about this and are also quite satisfied with that. I also want to thank for all the comments that we heard previously. I find it very valuable because I thought that my thoughts on this subject are already well constructed, but there is so much more.
Thank you very much. I have two things I want to share. One thing is it's great that PSA is trying to reach us, and that's not obvious for this kind of association, that they try to reach the students. And then, when you're a student, it's hard to come up with this idea that PSA exists and so on, that you can get involved. So it's great that they are starting to send this message across. So I think if it was just visible on their website and so on, that you would not need any separate section for the young. I don't think it's a good idea to have such a section for the young. When I think about that, I think that, this should be the community of people who are interested in the same topic, and they should not be segregated by age and so on. Yeah. So if you study and if you're interested in a particular area of sociology, let's say, I think this thematic section is the place for you, yes? And they should invite us, inform us about its activity, communicate that there is a possibility like that, so that we as students, as PhD students, join them and listen to what they do, ask for advice and communicate and so on. So no separate section for the young, I think. I think people are very different, students are very different, interested in different topics, and it's not like you have this over-representation of people who are interested in AI or social media. This is not true. I think what would be the best is when students could feel, that they can join the section, they can go to conferences, they can get support, and they will be treated on equal basis. And I think it's like that in many places, but maybe it should be communicated more, and then you don't need any special invitations and special mentoring programs or stuff like that.
This is the last comment, and then our panelists would recap. I have two basic ideas, and from our panelists and from the audience, I saw that it's dominated, that the idea is dominating that young people want to be involved, but there's different barriers on different levels, perhaps in the mind. So we need to overcome or demolish those barriers. But I also have a different perspective, and I would like to share the perspective of young scientific workers of universities. I have never been a member of the Polish Sociological Association, and whenever I was encouraged to do that by my peers, well, they never presented arguments that would convince me. I know that's quite harsh, but let me explain. The PSA is a professional association. It's an association of professionals who do specific work. And that gives me this idea that it should present some benefits, those club benefits. While joining the Polish Sociological Association is connected with paying subscription fees and also the obligation to do volunteer work, and taking into consideration the load of work that's on us, especially in young researchers' lives where we are under this pressure to publish, to get involved, then why should I join an organization that expects from me to give a lot more work? There's also networking within sections. I think that's one of the most valuable elements of being a member of the Polish Sociological Association. But if we're in a small organization, I'm representing sociology from the University of Warsaw. This is such a big organization. There's so many opportunities in Warsaw to present our scientific work. Well, I don't need to be a member of any other organization to satisfy that need. And I don't really appreciate the fact that an association should offer something. It has to offer something in order to motivate people to join. We need to address those people who want to join, but they don't really see any benefits from that.
Do we have any response from the panelists, or I think enough has been said? Okay, I just want to thank you very much, both for organizing the sessions and for all the voices in discussion. I took detailed notes. The people who are sitting next to me, you can see that. So we're going to talk about it both formally on our board meetings and also informally. Thank you very much. Just to comment on the last thing, well, that's a good example of what we should want. So we have to produce the need, even if it's autodelic need. then that's the point of view. So, like sociologist, Polish Sociological Association, yes, it should be. I should join them. Yeah, and I also believe that that's the case. So more indoctrination, I think, would produce the need. Yes, if you're a sociologist, you should be in the sociological association. Yes, like if you are a pharmacist, you have to be in the organization of pharmacists. Yes. So I think it should be similar. So it's an association for sociologists. I am a sociologist. I should be in this association. Yeah. Thank you very much from my part to the organizers. Thank you, everybody, all the panelists, for this exchange of thoughts. And thank you for all the questions, which were very inspiring. I can only agree. Like as we could see in this discussion, we have different opinions, but it's really great that we can talk openly like that, and it will lead us to some solutions, and it broadens our perspectives, and it will let us understand each other better. That's what the professor said. I'm very happy. I didn't expect this to go so well. Now what will stay with me is this promise of sociological manifestos. I think it's great, and that's what I miss. I was very happy to hear that. Thank you very much, all of you. I also thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this discussion. I'm especially glad that we did not use all the time, and the people from the audience were able to say things. And the only thing I can say is that in Krakow we will try to this young community, whatever the definition, this young community be included more. I'm also in the management board of the Krakow branch. I'm still learning how it's working. Yeah. So also from myself, thank you very much for all the voices. They were all intergenerational. So there's this great potential, great capacity of combining this young creativity with the experience of older scholars. So that PSA is a place which combines generations, brings generations together. So thank you very much. It was a great panel. Good job, girls. We want to thank the panelists at the end who accepted our invitations and showed their engagement, involvement, that they wanted to share their thoughts. Especially thank you, Professor, for participation. Thank you for showing that this is an important topic for PSA, that we are welcome, that we are wanted, that there is a space for discussion. Thank you very much, the public, for your engagement, that you wanted to share what you think. Thank you, the organizers, for having our panel and recognize the need for such a discussion. And we would like to thank the employees of this institute who keep showing us that we can do it, and they support us in all possible ways in what we do. Thank you very much. And now I just want to appeal to you, like Professor said, that Polish Sociological Association, these are people. And all those people we meet, even when we're sitting here, that these are all the people who want to make it better, so that it's better for all of us. So let's, smile at each other, recognize each other, appreciate each other. So we will be the ambassadors of PSA. We will try to encourage everybody to join in, and on the other hand, you know, this positive feedback to the other person should be given, like, you know, smile, support, and it will be recognized, will be appreciated. Thank you.